Are you hurting inside? Would you like for that wounded feeling to go away? They say that everybody hurts because we're human. We all have to face sadness in our life. A little bit of sadness is normal and natural, but sometimes sadness can take over. When that happens, sadness fills our field of view. It can feel like our whole personality. If that describes you, it's time to take action, because sadness doesn't have to be a life sentence. You can do something about it. As Stoics, we believe that actions have consequences. Effort has consequences. You can do things to improve your life, and every life can be improved. That's why we're presenting you today with a plan to help you break free. You don't have to be sad if you don't want to be. Here's how to change. 1. Identify the causes of your sadness. The first thing you should do is assess. Do a survey of your mind and of all the things that are making you sad. But do it slowly and carefully, and know that this may not be easy. You might be thinking while you're building your list that getting rid of sadness is easier said than done, and you're right. It is easier said than done. Nobody's saying flipping a switch will instantly make you happy. But what if you slowly, deliberately chipped away at your sadness? What if you lightened the load a little bit every day? That's what we're aiming for here. And that's what we're doing with our mental survey, trying to find the places where lifting the sadness will be easier. And the easiest place to start is 2. Let go of what you can't control. Start with the sadness that isn't even ours to carry. Think about it. How much of your current sadness stems from things you can't control? Things like past hurts, the actions of other people, or the state of the world. If your list of things you feel bad about but can't change is long, here are some things you could try. Read a book about why things are the way they are. Write down your feelings about someone else, if that's a problem. Even raise the issue with them, if appropriate. For things on an impersonal scale, you can reflect that they're just bigger than you are, and there's not much you can do to change that. Stoicism teaches us to focus our 3. Focus on what you can control. Energy on what we can influence. Our thoughts, our actions, and our reactions. For example, you can't control whether someone is going to be rude to you. That's up to them. You can control whether you let it ruin your day. So, zoom in on what you can control and focus there. There might be conditions in your life that you can change that would make you much happier. If you have a dysfunctional way of dealing with sadness, consider that this might be your actual biggest problem. It might be as simple as alcohol or as complicated as a friendship with someone who you always fight with, someone who is not trustworthy. If that's true for you, there is probably nothing that you can do that will make you as happy as getting out of those situations. There's your answer. Do that and your happiness will vastly increase. But for those situations for which there's not a single issue answer, the Stoics taught that we can usually improve our responses to the situations that trouble us. They said that we are disturbed not by things themselves, but by our judgments about those things. This is huge, let that sink in for a moment. This means it's not the event that disturbs us. It's how we interpret the event that determines our suffering. This is an idea that modern psychology supports. Cognitive behavioral therapy is about identifying and changing those negative thought patterns and those judgments that are causing you pain. Basically, it's reframing your thoughts. So, what does this look like in action? Let's say you face a setback in your professional life. Maybe you don't get a yes on an application that you were hoping for. The event is neutral, it just is. But you might judge it as, I'm a failure, or I'm never going to succeed. It's the judgment, that negative thought pattern, that creates the most suffering, the feeling of being crushed. So, to be less sad, we can let go of our sadness about things where we weren't the cause. And for those things where we were more directly involved, we can ask hard questions like, is my judgment about this really accurate? Now, I want to be crystal clear here. Stoicism isn't about denying the truth or pretending that bad things don't happen. It's also not about suppressing your emotions. It's about acknowledging the facts, but then choosing how you respond. It's about recognizing that you have the power, the agency, to reframe your judgments and your negative thought patterns. You can allow yourself to feel sadness, process it, and then with Stoic help, you can formulate a response. And you can also look at those places where judgments that are making you sad might simply be wrong. We see this all the time with our friends. They make judgments that, to us, are clearly exaggerated. Maybe they date someone who, to put it nicely, had some positives and some negatives. If we're being honest, we might be talking about some really big negatives. But our friends often don't see it that way. They act like they just lost the friendship of the greatest person in the world. We know that's not true. We might have let it slide while they were dating, but now that it's over, we don't have to hide anything. It's just the truth. This person was never as great or as flawless as our friend imagined. So, if that's true of our friend, couldn't it be true for us too? What are we mistaken about in our own sadness? That's a lot to take in and think about. And when you add in the techniques before this, that's even more so. Let's recap what we've covered so far. We started by surveying our life for the issues and memories that made us sad. Then we separated out those things that were not our fault or that we couldn't control. Then we looked at our judgments with a critical eye to see where they might be wrong and where our judgments could be improved. And there's more we can do in that direction. For identify your sadness triggers the Stoics were all about understanding the nature of things. And for us, that means understanding why we feel sad. We need to identify our sadness triggers. Think of it like this. Your sadness isn't a random emotional event. It's usually a reaction to something, a situation, a memory. Even a news headline can set us off. It's like a domino effect. One thing triggers another, and before you know it, you're feeling down, maybe even borderline depressed. Some people might say, "Oh, I know why I'm sad. I'm just a generally sad person." But that's not the whole story. It's more true to say, you have a collection of stories you tell yourself that are making you sad. Everything has a cause, and that includes our feelings too. Modern psychology gives us a term for the triggers that make us irrationally sad. They call them cognitive distortions. These are little thought patterns that warp our perception of reality and supercharge negative feelings. Take all or nothing thinking. You know, if I don't ace this test, I'm a failure. That's a cognitive distortion. Or, how about catastrophizing? Something minor goes wrong, and suddenly you're convinced your entire life is falling apart. That's not reality. That's an overreaction. So, here's a quick exercise. Think about the last time you felt majorly sad. What happened right before that feeling hit? What were you thinking about? For example, maybe you didn't get called by a friend this week. Did you automatically think, "They don't care about me," or "I have no friends"? That's a distortion. A more grounded thought might be, "I need to touch base to see what's going on with my friend." Or maybe even, "This friend normally does all the work of calling me. I need to work harder and call them sometimes too." That goes double if you have few or even no friends. It may be time to take action and start making them. We don't need to get worked up about problems we can solve in a couple of weeks by ourselves. So start by writing down those trigger situations and the negative thoughts associated with them. This is your starting point. Understanding your triggers is the first step to dismantling them. Remember, changing ingrained thought patterns takes conscious effort. It's like learning a new language. You have to practice, mess up, and keep trying. But at the end of it, you can have a better brain. In this case, after we've completed the task and found our sadness triggers, how do we do the Stoic thing? How do we pry ourselves loose from the grip of sadness? Well, once we have our trigger, we can start thinking about how to change the situation so we're not as affected by that trigger. 5. Changing our reaction through acceptance. We can also start thinking gently about accepting it. I know some of you are thinking, acceptance? You mean just giving up, resigning myself to something bad forever? Absolutely not. We mean acceptance as the start of real change. Think of it this way. Imagine you're fighting a raging ocean. You're struggling against the current, exhausting yourself, and getting nowhere. Acceptance is realizing that you can't stop the water from flowing, but you can choose how you navigate it. If you're a surfer, you know that rather than fighting a current, you should swim parallel to the shore and then eventually swim back in. The Stoics had a term for the kind of acceptance we're talking about. They called it amor fati, the love of fate. It doesn't mean you have to like everything that happens to you, but it does mean acknowledging that it has happened as a fact and moving on from that. The truth is that a huge part of sadness really comes from resistance. We resist the pain. We resist the unfairness. We resist the fact that things aren't the way we want them to be. and that resistance amplifies our suffering. So, how do we start practicing acceptance? It begins with awareness, the awareness that we're resisting the fact of something. And a simple way to cultivate awareness is with mindfulness. As an exercise, we can start with the breath. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in and slowly exhale. Notice the sensation of the air entering your lungs and leaving your body. Don't judge it. Don't try to change it. Just observe it. Now, do this a few times. That's the foundation of mindful breathing. By simply paying attention to the present moment without judgment, we create space to accept what is. Now, if we apply this to our trigger, it means we try to react differently next time. Maybe, instead of spiraling emotionally, we stop and examine the situation. We acknowledge that it's happening, and then we try to do better. And when we choose to accept something, amazing things happen. It's like a pressure valve releasing. The tension starts to ease. Our resistance crumbles. And suddenly, we have the clarity to see things as they are, not as we wish they were. And that is where the power to change our situation truly begins, at the point of acceptance. We've reached our true starting point. Because Stoicism. 6. Use your agency isn't about passively accepting your fate. It's about taking action where you can. In this life, there are things you can control and things you absolutely can't. Your thoughts, your actions, your values, that's all you. You're the captain of that ship. The economy, or whatever the government decides to do. That's totally out of your hands in the short term. But wait, you might be saying, my sadness is because of the economy. I lost my job. How can I just forget about it? Here's the key. You can't control that it happened after it's happened. What you can control is how you respond. Are you going to wallow in despair? Or are you going to start updating your resume, start networking, and start learning new skills? What we're trying to avoid here is what psychologists call learned helplessness. That's when you feel like you have no control over your situation, so you just give up and do nothing. Stoicism is the ultimate antidote to that. It's about taking back your power and doing something. So, how do we put this into action? You can start by thinking of one thing that's making you sad. Then ask yourself, can I directly control this? If the answer is no, write down what aspects of your response you can control. You can't control your family's judginess about your decisions, but you can control how you react. You can choose to state your boundaries. You can choose not to go to something if people aren't listening. And remember, small actions matter. Sending one email or reading one chapter of a self-improvement book matters. These little wins build momentum. They remind you that you're not helpless. You are in control of your life when you choose to be. And that's the basis of our framework here, taking the initiative to control what you can. We started by acknowledging our sadness instead of running from it. Then we accepted that it's there, that it's a part of our experience. And finally, we focused on what we can control. Our thoughts, our actions, our reactions. That's the foundation. Here's how to build on it. The real transformation happens when we choose to act, when we choose to build a life that actively pushes back against the waves of the world and all the events beyond our control. Think of it like this. Recurring sadness is like a plant. Understanding it, accepting it, and even controlling your immediate reaction to it, that's like pulling the branches off the plant. But if you don't address the roots, it's just going to grow back. Our roots are our thoughts and our values. You shouldn't think of the virtues you cherish, like wisdom, justice, and courage, as if they were cliches. They're the deep, life-affirming roots that starve the weeds and allow something beautiful to grow in their place. Modern psychology agrees. Studies show that having a sense of meaning and purpose is a huge buffer against emotional distress. When you're working towards something bigger than yourself, when you're living in alignment with what you truly believe in, sadness starts to fade. What does this look like in daily life? It means actively choosing activities that connect with your values, which will automatically bring you joy. Do you value creativity? Then paint, write, and play music. Do you value politics? Then volunteer your time or go to events where your politics are expressed. To take this even further, try to connect with others. Isolation is sadness's best friend. Build meaningful relationships, share your experiences, and let yourself be supported. On this, modern science is clear. One of the absolute best things we can do for our mental health is to join a community and make friends. As far as the research goes, of all the levers we've discussed here, this one may be the biggest. So put yourself out there, try to make friends. If it's at all possible, try to make friends in person in your community. At a minimum, that means going out to things and putting yourself out there. Most people know we need to do that for dating. For example, you have to try. But for your friendships, how hard are you trying? Are you even trying at all? If you aren't, now would be a good time to start. Find a hobby or an interest and show up the next time people in your area meet about it. It's not like you need to talk about what's making you sad while you're there. You just need to find a community and spend time in it. That will help lessen your sadness, and that will help make you happier if all you do is go. But if you have a friend or a community you can talk to about what's making you sad, that's great too, you should do that. And if you're open to therapy, you should consider that. But if you're not, at least consider going out there and finding a community to be a part of. Summary recap here at the Stoic community. We like to think of ourselves as a friendly shoulder that is here to serve you. In this video, we've given you a basket, a tool set of strategies you can use to fight sadness. So now that we've covered them, let's review them. Think about your sadness. What is causing it? Separate out those things that you can't control. Those were always beyond your control anyway. Look at your judgments. Question them and see which ones serve you and which ones can be trashed. Identify your sadness triggers and then see what you can do about them. Accept what has happened and can't be changed. Use your agency. Focus on what you can change. Join a community of other people if you can. It's one of the best methods to fight sadness that there is. So, pick one technique. Try it today. See what changes. Add another one tomorrow. Build your Stoic toolkit one piece at a time. These aren't just ancient ideas. They're practical tools that you can put to work today. Remember what the Stoics knew. Your mind is the only thing you fully control, nothing else. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. So start using these techniques today and become the happy person you were always meant to be. And finally, good luck. Know that we're rooting for you no matter what.